Thank you very much indeed, Brenda, for joining us this morning. Ladies and gents, it's a pleasure to introduce our first guest this morning. By the way, if you've come, or if you've been in this area and taken in the majesty of the Tower of London, you probably wonder why it looks so immaculate to millions of visitors every year, and it's partly because of our next guest's good work. She bought the business Ground Control in 2004. Back then it was an £8 million business. She's grown it to a £140 million plus business. It's won all sorts of awards and has just this incredible range of work, which we will explore a little bit more. But I'm delighted to welcome as our first fireside chat for the morning. Please welcome up Kim Moorish. Please adjust our set. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks, Ollie.
Now, I got that right, didn't I? Tower of London's
Tower
one of
of
yours?
London, yeah. So we do everything from water sewage treatment plants to the Tower of London and the National Maritime Museum. So a wide range of sites, 45,000 sites throughout the UK.
Amazing.
And it's a team effort. So
Right.
my husband and I bought the business in 2004. And over the last 15 years, we've grown it with our team. It's a very participatory team environment. But thank you for acknowledging my role.
Well, also, I wanted to start there because I have this bad habit of saying they're co-founder of, et cetera, because I sort of have this sort of founder fetish going on. But actually, you went out, if I can put it bluntly, sort of shopping, really. Or
Right.
did you? Or was it slightly more serendipitous? How
No,
did you buy it?
I had launched a startup in Washington, and then I'd done another startup with my husband and a third partner, and then I'd worked in a startup.
Yes.
That's exhausting. That was over about 5 or 6 years. And so we were in Boston at the time, and we had this idea to buy a business. And with a baby and another baby that we were hoping to have at that time, it just seemed so much easier. It's actually not easier, I'll tell you that for sure. It's not easier. We came back to London, and Simon owed McKinsey 2 years. They'd sponsored him through his MBA program. So I was the lead on the acquisition. I put the strategy together. Very broad. We're looking for a business to buy that didn't have risks of outsourcing the technology or offshoring, things that we could leverage to borrow because we didn't have a lot of money.
You wanted it to be a service business?
Not specifically,
Okay.
but we love recurring revenue streams. So Ground Control was the first business that we found. I went out meeting with business brokers, accountancy firms, business seminars, franchise seminars, conferences, literally talking to everyone I could about what we were trying to achieve. And Ground Control was the first business. It wasn't ready for us yet. It was very, very risky. It had one big customer then, which was Tesco. And so we passed, and it came back again. And the business broker that I met, the first broker that I met him and I was pregnant, and he never commented. And 6 months later, I was very heavily pregnant. He never asked me, how's this going to work? Are you really still trying to buy a business? And he didn't ask how. It was unique as a woman not to have that be the focus. Yeah. Nor did he ask where was my partner. Almost everyone else I met, which let's say everyone, would focus on that. So we found Ground Control, and it fit every criteria, but it was much bigger than what we had planned on. We were looking for a couple £1 million,
right?
And it was £8 million.
And this was £8 million. And as you began that journey, you remortgaged your house. You took on finance from friends and family. With the benefit of hindsight, what would you say to someone in the audience considering either of those two big actions?
Friends and family, that's a great litmus test, especially if you have good friends, to say, this is the concept, we're going to be the team, what do you think? Yeah. We got great advice, insight, mentoring from friends, along with we raised some capital from friends and family, which meant the world. But it was scary. That was the scariest money. We remortgaged our house. When I meet, especially with female founders who are reluctant to take on debt, I will ask the question, would you build your house one room at a time? Which a lot, specifically female founders do. They grow based on their earnings. Or would you wait 20 years to buy your house once you'd raised that much money? So for me, it's quite fluid. We remortgaged our house. We also borrowed £5.5 million from Bank of Scotland and £4 million from the vendor. So remortgaging the house was the smallest portion of what we raised.
Okay. And actually that trail then evolves, doesn't it? Because through this sort of series of acquisitions, I want to talk a little bit about the journey, but what fascinates me on that process, 9 acquisitions so far.
9 acquisitions to date, which is not how, most of our growth has been organic, so 27% a year is organic growth. And then we've done strategic acquisitions as well.
So a little bit like this sort of misperception around how you buy a business in the first place. What have you learned about acquiring or finding the targets to acquire in the first place? And how do you even begin to go about that? Are you doing that internally? What have you learned?
Hit list, because I ran business development as well. We have a hit list for everything. It's like the mod squad. Who do we want to work with? So if we look at sectors or customers that we're really working hard to break into, how can we get there? We have strategic acquisitions to get into those sectors or into business with those customers that we were blocked because we didn't have trading history.
So, for example, what did you need to do?
So
what did you need to get
we
into?
bought a public sector business, for example, because every PQQ we filled out, we got tossed out because we didn't have public sector
this is the
trading.
Pre-qualification questionnaire, right?
So after 2 years of that, you're like, okay, my head hurts from banging on the wall. Let's just buy a smaller business, integrate in the talent and the experience, and then go. So that was one. Moving into winter maintenance. Tesco wanted us to do winter maintenance. We didn't know how to do it, so we bought a small business.
What sort of maintenance?
Winter maintenance.
Winter
Gridding
maintenance.
and snow clearance. So we were a summer maintenance business.
Yeah.
So we diversified into that in response to something our customers
And are you saying,
wanted.
just in practical terms, are you saying to a partner and advisor, go and find me a hit list, or are you doing that yourself?
No, we're thinking, okay, what's hurting right now for us to achieve our goals? And then you figure out how to get there. So especially acquisition of talent. How do we get the best talent when we're based very close to London? So talent in our area is flooding into London for employment. How do we get best talent in the sector when there's a lot of competitors doing a great job? Sometimes we have to sort of acquire the talent or the expertise.
And so once you've spotted that potential target, what would you say is the single biggest thing you've learned about the due diligence process itself, if I asked you to distill it?
The single biggest, and Brenda did a great job talking about this, is culture. It's around values and behaviors that whoever you're acquiring, they need to be aligned with your own values and behaviors. You cannot change that once you buy a business. So understanding the values and behaviors of a business is critical. And with ground control, for example, the values of that business, incredibly customer-focused, long-term strategic growth with partners. It wasn't a slapdash, quick profit business, and the founder wanted to see that continue. The same way that we will always want to see our business continue.
Yeah. So help us demystify that a bit, because I would be looking at a business now and saying, well, Kim, they do a mean line in snowplows. I'll give them that. But you mentioned culture, clearly important. How do we even get a sense of that? How would I even know from the outside?
Well, I think it's being curious, paying attention, listening with your heart, not just with your ears. You walk into any organization or any room, you get a sense. I think women have a great perceptive ability. If you just listen and you spend time, you're looking at an acquisition, you spend time with the founders first, especially you spend time over dinner, over drinks, over lunch, coffee, not in a meeting room. Then you spend time inside the business. You look and see how people function. You ask questions about what's it like to work with. Is it possible, forgive me, is it possible for that cultural due diligence to begin from a distance, or can it only begin once you've gone across the threshold? No, you can begin from a distance based on the reputation, based on the talent. You can look at their customer turnover, their staff turnover. So I always ran recruiting for our business as well. If I'm getting lots of people applying from a business, I almost immediately assumed that's not a great place to work. If I never had an application, we have a competitor, we've never had a single applicant from that. I'm still trying to buy them. We're still trying to get...
They're doing a good job of retention.
They're really great, okay. Yes.
So I guess one of the next challenges down the line is something you've learned about how you avoid a culture clash post-acquisition, because you've done your best to weigh up a fit.
We do our best, and we've made mistakes, for sure. We've made mistakes where we've done something that's more opportunistic than strategic. It made sense because it was a great deal. It added something in, and we haven't done enough due diligence. Where we really try to bring people into the culture of our business on day one, and every day after that. When we can't get culture and values to align, you need to exit those folks. It's if I think of the amount of time, energy, and happiness that's hemorrhaged with a culture that's out of alignment, when values are out of alignment, it's not worth it. So the way we've built ground control, huge focus on culture. It's from recruitment, we recruit specifically for cultural alignment. We bang on all the way through the induction process and the probation. Twice a year, semi-annual bonuses. We ask staff, what are you doing to support our culture? Appraisals, 50% of an appraisal is based on contribution to culture. 2 annual events, big national conferences, on and on and on, celebrating culture, rewarding culture. And then our national road shows. This is a constant reinforcement on culture. When you acquire a business, to bring everyone into that right away, it's either going to feel good or it's going to feel bad to them.
And so is your vision in that sense to create one culture? I was interviewing someone from Unilever the other day about the acquisitions they make, and he spoke quite clearly about the opportunity that they have, I guess, to preserve a culture. And it sounds like you're sort of saying, look, how do we have one across many organizations?
Yeah, culture is very unique. And Brenda, I really enjoyed your talk. Like, there's family traits. So I love diversity, and diversity of thought and experience really enriches a team. However, if your values aren't aligned, then all you're doing is fighting with each other. The enemy's not outside the gates. The enemy's in bed with you, and you just can't have that. So when you're talking about values, are you looking at your customers as with pound signs? Are you looking at them as strategic partners that you're there to serve? Yeah. Do you put people at the center of what you do? This is our underlying value. Do you put your own people at the center of everything you do? If those values aren't aligned, then the culture's not the right fit.
Right. And then in practical terms, maybe an example of something you consciously do within ground control to build that culture. What's a practical, I'm thinking in terms of the rhythms and the habits, the rituals, if you like, within the organization, anything that we can get a sense of?
Yeah, I think some of these I mentioned earlier. It is a relentless focus. And I spoke at an event a few months ago, and it's like staying in shape. It's so easy where things, especially as you get older, you get bigger, things sort of start to drift a bit. It is a constant focus on it to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So we have our mission and our vision and our values and behaviors. It's just keeping it alive, because we hire a new person every day. Right. We have almost 1,000 employees right now. So you just can't let up.
Yeah, for sure. A question or two for Kim, and I'm going to see if we've had any through Slido so far. So do ask on Slido, but otherwise you might have a general question or a specific question. Any so far for Kim? Yes, please. Feel free to say who you are. You don't have to.
So we do, that's a great question. We do a number of things, but they're lagging indicators. And so our HR people team is really trying to find things that are much more timely. So we've always done an annual engagement survey, but that's a year of lagged information. I look at staff turnover every month, and we scrutinize down to who is the line manager, and we jump on that straight away. So again, but this is lagging, you can't fix it. We introduced keep in touch meetings. So for all new employees, and then people who have been with us 1 and 2 years, to meet with the director just over a coffee and how are things going, what's great, what's not so great. It's if you build the right culture where it's people centric, you should be talking to your people everyone should be talking to the people that they work with every day on how are things, how are you?
Yeah, and presumably to Tori's question, that annual survey could become much more regular.
Much more nimble. It's clunky.
Are you drawn to that as a more regular?
Yeah, we need leading indicators that are quick and fast to do. We have great leading indicators with our customers, and we're really lagging with this. This annual thing's not good enough. It's not. But it does tell us in a lot of detail what we need to improve on, and we're moving towards much. Maybe you have some ideas.
Okay, good. Thank you, Tori Chilcott. Thank you. Yeah.
And one of them is often the integration post on culture and diversity. And I've seen the problem. I was interested in saying that, how you do the due diligence on culture, because a lot of the times our clients see the very close group of CEO, founder, finance director, but are not, because of confidentiality, maybe a competitor business, they're really not let in to the business until almost they've signed on the dotted line to see see, the actual senior management below senior management. So they're not able to really, they're only told the culture from the top. They're not able to see it until it's almost too late. I just, it'd be really useful for me to pass on any of how you've done that to clients who are poised to do acquisitions, and their culture's important.
So keep in mind, the business was small. It was £8 million. We were hiring a couple people, maybe 5-10 people a week. I looked first at where is there movement in the market, where there's turnover. And then when you're interviewing people, so you can be doing, your HR team can be doing, what are you hearing? That feedback loop on your competitors are people that you target. You start calling up people and interviewing them over the phone, bring them into the business. We have been restricted from meeting people when we're doing an acquisition of a big competitor, but you can still pick up a tremendous amount in the due diligence when you look at staff turnover. Longevity of service of the senior leadership team, diversity. You can almost pick it up even if you don't get a picture of them from what their name and background is. Sadly, if it's all seemingly kind of stodgier people that look like the same profile, you know what that team is how it's going to operate with a lack of inclusivity and diversity. You can get all this stuff without ever being in the business, but we kind of go undercover. When we bought Ground Control, we worked in the business for a couple weeks as consultants. We went and talked to all their customers. We interviewed staff.
Now we're getting into it, just as we're running out of time. It's like Inspector Clouseau comes forward. Right. Oh, Miss Marple. Anyway, well, I've got many more questions, but just give us a quick glimpse for us, Kim, of the future of Ground Control. I feel like I'm at NASA, but give us a sense of where that next to stay on track. Where do you want to be?
Part of the culture. My mom used to say, right or wrong, let's do something. It sounds crazy when I say it out loud, but we are all, the senior leadership team, the founders, we're all like that. Every day you want to do something. It never feels steady state, doesn't feel right, and Sam alluded to this as well. So if we've hired everyone that feels like that, that's part of the way they operate, we just have to keep innovating, driving progress, driving technological solutions. Our customers demand it, but we're hardwired for it. So continued growth. We don't like growing through acquisitions. It is harder. So continued organic growth. We know where our sweet spot is recurring revenue streams on our core business. So much more of that, and we have our hit list of customers and sectors we want to explore. So a lot more of the same, but hopefully smarter, quicker, faster, and more technologically driven.
Excellent. No, thank you so much
Okay.
for joining us
Thank you.
this morning. Thank you, Kim Moorish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you later. Thank you.